What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Shorty Show, where it gets as random as, did you know, in Chicago, when it snows, that you have to put things in your parking space on a public street to label as your parking. You know that? We put like crates there because we shovel our own spot, and then we don't want anyone to take that spot away. So we put crates, we put chairs, we put random shit, 2x4s. And if somebody moves it and parks their car there, one, they're a jackass and they deserve to get their ass kicked.
You guys usually like steal their car?
No,
if that happens,
you can do that now, especially with TikTok and with the Kia and the Hyundais. Like you can just put your USB in. Anyways, look up that TikTok video. With that being said, my co-host Justin Hong and special guest, my big round brother Orlando DTek Torres.
We're eating good.
Yeah, you're out here in Vegas and you're just enjoying yourself. I took him to a Korean barbecue yesterday. Captain Six, shout out to you guys. And it's like $30 a person, so you gotta fucking, that's amazing. And we ate way, like they lost money on us. There's no way they fucking made money on our table. Like we ate so much food. What have you been doing in Vegas besides eating and gambling? I can tell you've been eating.
Trying to sleep. Love gambling. We're watching the Bears game today. It was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Swimming in the pool, meeting people from all over the world. But besides that, just, trying to have fun here.
So, do you have any siblings?
I've got a half brother and a little older sister.
Okay. What? A little older sister?
She's
older sister?
She's a little bit older. She's like 2 years older than me.
Oh, that threw me way the fuck off. Okay. So 2 years. Right?
About there, let's say.
Give or take.
Right.
So it's, you guys semi-relate.
Yeah, we fought a lot growing up.
But you semi-relate to an extent. Like, you're like, all right, cool, we've kind of watched the same shows, this, that.
Not at all.
No?
No, not at all.
I mean, like, in all technicality, era. Because he's 8 years older than I am.
Okay.
So it is, for me, like, he's an 80s baby, I'm a 90s baby. So it's, to me, very different. Hell, fuck, my girlfriend now is 8 years younger than me. I'm like, oh, this is weird. Because when I was a kid, he wanted to be like my father. Like, that's how the age gap was, especially when you're so young, like, and especially in the south side of Chicago where, like, you do random shit. Like, he wanted to be my father. Like, that's how it was. Like, he had no choice but to babysit me and take me out. I remember going on dates with random girls with you, and we'd go bowling, and I'm just like someone's son pretty much, because I was so young. The fun fact was, I went out with you and your friends so many times, like Ricky, all the guys, Alma, all them that were down the block. Again, Southside Chicago, where we had police cameras on the corner of every block because they would just make sure nothing is happening. And I remember I ran away from preschool, and I didn't know I ran away. It was the very first day of preschool, I got expelled. I walked out when they let all the kids out. I didn't know I was supposed to stay, so I just walked home. And because of him, I knew how to get home because he took me out so many times to go hang out with his friends because he was babysitting me or not, that I was like, oh, I know where I'm at. And I walked home a mile when I was 4 years old. Just think about like a little fun-sized shorty with the same size head and a big bag. I look like Dora, dude. I look like a white Dora, walking down the street, and then just stayed in front of my house. And I remember later on when they finally found me, they're like, dude, how'd you know? I was like, oh, Lando and I take this route all the time. Like, it's normal to me. But with that being said, like, what was it like trying to be like that role model for me growing up?
Well, it was a little difficult because I knew what was good and what was bad. Mm-hmm. And, Mom bring out a lot of good in us. And then Dad was good, but when he was out, he had to be, like, rough and tough. And the streets was rugged as fuck,
Yeah.
And, watching my dad, like, okay, cool. We're going to clean the table, throw out the garbage, sweep and mop, and then drop off my mom. And that was the good side of the part. But as soon as we dropped off my mom, he's like, okay, we're going to have to bag up all this fucking crack, weed, and he will go give it to his members, and, they'll be selling them. And then I'm like, man, this is interesting, Like, I don't know, but I'm fucking bagging, You're
just doing what Dad tells you.
Yeah, basically. I'm like, fuck, let me put this whole ounce in my diaper bag, But then, from there, the bad thing finally went away. Now we're going to go like do some plumbing work, which is the good part of his life, helping other people. And then, after work is like, okay, now we got to go pick up the money from the packs. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Now we're going to have some money. Then we get there and the person's like, doesn't have all the money, you know? And I'm like, damn, it's cool. Maybe I'll have it tomorrow. And then, bam, I just see my dad start fucking dude up. I'm like, oh, cool. He's fighting like we fight on the bed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's fucking dude up. He's not even like, man, I don't got the money. And, you see my dad stay quiet for like 5 seconds and then just start not know like, why don't you got the money? Or when you going to get it? Just start whooping his ass, But then right after that, now we're back in the car. We're going to go pick mom up for work and then go home and then, either, watch a Bruce Lee movie. And then after a Bruce Lee movie, my dad's like, man, I just learned this new move. Let me try it on you. I'm like, no, I don't want to. But, we learned how to fight from him, watching him fight. And, just knowing that, we fought so much when other kids would, like, try to fuck with us. We'd be like, like, man, if you don't hit harder than my dad, you're going to have a rough night. You know what I'm saying? So, my dad was a little rough. He'd always get mad for, obviously, odd reasons we didn't know about. But, at one moment, I would get, like, frustrated because I'm like, damn, this motherfucker just punched me out of nowhere. I don't know how to take this. So then one day, finally, as years went on, I ended up learning how to, like, move with it, block with it. I'm like, man, it kind of still hurts, but doesn't hurt as much as just getting slammed in the face with a nice fist, you know? You get out of school and you're like, poof. It's like, fuck. I'm like, I'm surprised that, he was always frustrated,
Yeah.
But, as we got older, it would be like that in high school. People would try to fight us, and I'm like, you have no idea. I learned how to block so good. I learned how to move with the punches, and I know how to counter real good. And, we went to different schools, because of my dad. We'd always be moving. But what was cool about my dad was he never gave up on us or trying to have a family, most people would be like, oh, fuck this lady. Just give me a hard time. I'm going to move on, So, it went from like the good, the bad, but at the end, ended up being really good, He ended up becoming a fighter. I watched my dad work so much. I'm like, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to work. I'm never going to pick up a wrench or a drill. But then I'm like, man, what the heck am I going to do in the future?
Yeah.
Maybe I could do some sports. I was really good at sports. I'm still good at sports. I play basketball with all the injuries that I have. But at one point I was like, oh, I got all these tools now, And amazingly, I would start, deciding to, people would call me to do little jobs because I would always film my dad and, like, show everybody what he's good at. And then eventually people started calling me. I'm like, do I really want to do this? But then it was really cool because I'm like, I got all these tools. I don't have to buy nothing. So everything I do is, like, all profit, So that's another good thing that, my dad taught us. And I suppose my mom, she was like the patience backbone of between, like, me, my brother, and my dad.
Yeah.
Basically without her, shit, we'd really be in the street.
Be homeless.
Yeah.
My mom is the smart one and from the ghetto neighborhood. Like, she was, I think sadly, before obviously we were born, like, dad found her, and you know, she could have done a lot of things, but my mom was also going through her stuff with her family, with her father.
Yeah.
That, like, that's why she ended up chasing my dad. It was like, don't date that guy. Doing it because she had daddy issues in a sense, and, you know, went for my father. And, you know, I think my mom sadly could have made it farther in life or what she wanted to do, but she chose my father for certain reasons. And, you know, my dad tried the best he could, but raising us, it's different because they 8-year gap, and I hate to say it, and I know, like, you have one child or two?
One.
Okay. Like, you have 3.
Yeah.
Me, I don't think I have any. I hope not.
None claimed.
None claimed. I
Only on
deny.
the taxes, right?
I deny a lot of calls. Actually, that's a very common thing in Chicago. I was under some random lady. I was like, how do you find my Social Security? But the fact is, 8-year gap, we were raised very differently. Because hopefully, you know, as a parent, whether you want to learn from your mistakes or even worse is worse, like, dang, he did this. I feel like it could have gone better. Let's do this with, you know, the second child, you know, male or female. And with him, because my family didn't have money, he was more raised by my father. My mom had a full 9-to-5 job compared to my father, was the handyman that would, you know, do calls. Now, obviously, he also on the side as a, you know, gang member doing whatever he had to do and dealing. But he had no choice but to go with him when there was no school. So he's like, fuck, I got to deal with dad. And my dad was just naturally aggressive. He was just a very, at the time, impatient, you know, young man that was just, one, wasn't ready for a kid, but then 2, sadly, he personally had the frustrations taken out on him. So he 100% learned the hard way. So as he grew up resenting my father and wanting my mother, I was the opposite. I was kind of like coddled by mom, you know, and not really taken by dad. But dad also kind of, and I look at it later on, and you did the same thing in a positive way, where you and dad tried to stay away from me on purpose. Because you're like, fuck, if we hang out with him too much, he's going to want to hang out with us. Because, I mean, you're the youngest boy of the family. You want to be like your big brother. You want to be like your father. You want to hang out with them. And they're like, fuck, he's starting to act like us. Oh, we got to avoid him. You know, because he's going to be like us. And that was one of the things that he did. That, like, anytime, I remember he called me smoking, and he's like, he would, like, word it properly way different than dad. Dad would just fuck us up and then talk to you after. But the fact was, he would, you know, go, hey, man, I did this. I went this way, and it just didn't work for me. You should go that way. So it was like, technically, he wasn't the best role model, but it was like the role model to go, dude, I did this. It didn't work. I tried it. You should go that way, you know, and that's going to be your route. He was actually, because of him, specifically because of him and my mom as well, my mom started me in karate and did all that stuff. He paid for me to go to Combat Do for a year. Because at the time, he just had his first near-fatal injury. When you got hit with the bat, and we'll talk about that soon. And he's like, dude, I can't protect mom. I can't protect the family anymore. So you need to learn how to really fight. Karate's cool, but this ain't point fighting. Like, you should really learn how to fight. So I started MMA, and then years later, obviously, branched out to what I am today, a professional MMA fighter. But if it weren't for him, and I gave you my PS3, I think at the time, that was our trade-off.
I love that game.
I fucking missed that. But he took the PS3 and played, and then I ended up becoming, you know, this big time fighter. But it wasn't, if it weren't for that opportunity, I went to Met, you know, Master Bob and all the male role models I was able to meet. You know, and something I want to give you some gratitude for is because you let me do martial arts, you know, in Combat Do as a teenager, especially you already know in high school, like, dude, we experiment, we do drugs, we fucking sell drugs, we make money, especially our neighborhoods. Like, that's just the natural upbringing. Every family member is a gang somebody. Some family members from Puerto Rico, Mexico, or wherever the fuck. It's normal to us. Like, in our neighborhood, it was a semi-normal thing that, like, somebody was related to a gang member, whatever the case may be. But he put me in a facility to where I had positive male role models. I love my dad, but even if he wanted to be positive, visually he wasn't. And especially at a younger age, fucker was aggressive. Like, he was super aggressive to you, much less aggressive than me, and which was funny as hell. You remember, I think one time we're watching his first son, Tito, play Halo. They used to play Halo 3 together. And they're sharing this one little couch, and they're, you know, together playing the Lazy Boy, and they're playing Halo, and my dad, short temper, like that. And something happened in the game, he's like, fuck Tito, you got in my way, blah, blah. And him and I are looking down the stairs, like, oh, shit, like, I wonder how Tito's gonna react. And Tito's like, Grandpa, don't you talk to me that way. apologize to me because that was rude. And we're just like,
He's
you
gonna
fucked
get
up.
it.
It's like, you fucked up. And I don't know. My dad's like, you're right, Tito. I'm sorry. And him and I were like, fuck. Like, we're all upset. We're like, we're not saying you should have got your ass kicked, but damn, we took all those
What are you
ass
doing,
kickings.
Dad? Get
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Get
we're
him.
like, fuck. Oh, now you want to change? Like, it was part of the process. But, he was able to put me in front of positive male role models, Master Bob, even former gang members that now joined the gym. They were like, hey, like he did, I did this, it didn't work, you should do this instead. Shorty, like, keep on pursuing. And because of you, I ended up starting my foundation because you've had 2 near fatal injuries. And I still think, even after all the food in Vegas, that you're still way more athletically talented and gifted than I was. I was telling my girl yesterday that, like, if we ran a 40-yard dash or a 100-yard dash, probably not at the end, but for sure a 40-yard dash, that you would beat me because that's how quick and explosive you are. Like, you just never had, sadly, the opportunity to get that, that positive male role model. Now you're trying to give back, whether to me, your 3 kids, and like Dad did. Like, he wasn't the best role model, but fuck it. Hey man, gang life ain't gonna last forever. Let me teach you some tools, for the house. And hopefully, and when Dad passed away, you saw that people were coming up to us going like, holy shit, like, this guy's a plumber, this guy's a handyman. Oh, it's because your dad would take me out the street and then make us work and shit like that. It's a crazy thing. And now because, obviously Dad's gone, you're closer to Mom than I am. Like, obviously you're home a lot more, but then too, like, because I think I was raised by Mom at a young age, like, her and I were best friends, and then once it came to a certain point, I'm like, all right, cool, I gotta go, like, and I gotta do my thing, and I ended up latching on to Dad, whereas him and I got closer compared to you and Dad were close, if you want to say, and then towards the end of, when I got close to Dad, you got closer to Mom. Like, how was that, like, switched to you? How was it now, being able to talk to Mom more and get to talk to her and just being with her?
Well, it's a lot comfortable now because, back in the day, like you said, I had no choice. I always with my pops.
Yeah.
I would wake up and, like, hold my mom's leg, like, no, I don't want to go, please. Like, but I would still go. So, like, now it's cool. I don't have, like, the urgency to wake up and go to work. So now every time I get the chance, it can go both ways, though, with Mom, I'm like, oh, that's why Dad was always mad at you,
Yeah. We'll start to realize some shit. She'll say some shit to us, and we're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense now. Okay, we see why Dad was upset sometimes.
But she's a great woman. She's how you say, tiny but mighty.
She's strong as shit.
We
get all of our athletics go from her, I think.
I think she's like 4'10",
4'8",
or 4'8", and
What?
She's adorable.
she's always working out. She's always moving. I still feel like my dad sometimes, like, lady, just sit down and fucking eat. You know what I'm saying?
She'll
like,
run 5 miles randomly. She's like, oh, I'm going to run. Just run.
She'll put,
She's 61.
Damn.
she'll put food on the grill and then go take a 3-mile run and then come back and then flip the meat. Like,
She's the Mexican one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, whoa.
Running, right? Like, right across country?
Yeah, I was like, fucking dude, you're going to
she's
say
a
that too.
beast. Even through, like, all my injuries, I have a lot of, like, memory deficiencies. So, like, I have long-term memory, but I just forget really fast. I could be doing one thing and just forget something. So she helps me a lot. I'm controlling my own bills, but all the bills that I had in the past, I don't remember them at all. Like, my credit would be so bad. But she's like, hey, you got to pay like $700 this month. I'm like, fuck, okay. And I'm not even thinking about my bills, never. I'm just thinking about the money I'm going to make today, which is cool. She's man, our house is so clean. Now that, rest in peace, my pops, she keeps everything crisp.
So different.
Yeah.
It's so different.
When my dad was alive, our ceiling was like yellow. I mean, it was white, but he smoked so much weed. Like, if you were ever to come over to our house, you would park and you're like, Shorty. My dad's name was Shorty G. So we're like, yeah, he's here. You could smell his weed from, like, around our house before you came and knocked on the door.
And it wasn't normal weed. What was it? What do you like to call as weed?
Like Reggie's. Reggie, it was like the worst weeds ever.
It was the most affordable.
Yeah, the most affordable because he would smoke like almost 30 blunts a day, you know? And I mean, obviously, you know, it's smoking Reggie's. You need to probably smoke that much to get stoned. But we couldn't buy him no, like, back in the day, Hydro or Kush because he would just smoke that and it would be like triple the amount. And I'm like, dude, you need to relax. But, you know, it was odd because, you know, my mom would smoke here and there with my dad. But now that, you know, mom doesn't have that smoking partner no more, she rarely ever nothing, you know? So she's really composed. She works out a lot. Sometimes it looks like she wants to hit me. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, go ahead, little lady.
I understand her.
Like,
no.
like, the worst is one time she chased me around the table. She's like, I'm going to fucking kick your ass. And I'm not going to let you. I'm running around. And she's like, you better fucking stop before I tell your dad. And I was like, skirt. And then she just started hitting me. And I was like, this is not that bad. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'll fucking always stop when you're going to hit me. Because it definitely was like, if my dad's punches was a 10, hers was just like a 1.
Yeah.
So it was like, a little to the left. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's funny because there's, you become a teenager, you become very rebellious. And I was an asshole to both my parents. And I remember, I don't know if I was 16 or 17, but one day I remember I was just a dick to mom. She slapped the shit out of me. And I was like, is that all you got? Like, I finally, like, grew to that point where I'm like, I'm not scared of you anymore. And I finally got a little taller than her. You know, so I'm like, I'm not scared of you anymore. I wear bigger clothes now. And we're not sharing jackets and hoodies. And, like, a few days later, I remember I called my mom a bitch. You're already out of the house. Thank God. And she walked up. Exactly. She walked up and she goes, dude, I forgot what she said. And I was like, fuck you, bitch. And I'm by the back door already, like ready to go. And there's like 3-4 stairs, you know, and my mom's looking down. She goes, and out of nowhere, my dad just does a big ass step and walks in the path. And he's like, what'd you say? And I'm just like thinking in my head, like the math calculations, like, shit, should I do it? Should I do it? The door's already open. The gate's almost open too. I just hop over the fence. I'll be, fuck you, bitch. And I like closed the door and closed the gate door and jumped over the fence and ran because my dad was going to fuck us up. You know, but that's the crazy thing is like he got nicer, obviously. Like he started to get more and more patient and less aggravated, hopefully, as he got older to where like he didn't know how to handle his anger. And sadly, you were part of that. Like he just was like, fuck, I don't give a fuck. Like I have a punching bag. You know, like, this motherfucker could take a shot. And then me, I took a little bit of it. And then when Tito would hang out with him, his first son, fucker never got hit. We were actually kind of jealous. It was like, fuck, hit him, you know, because this little kid's an asshole sometimes. But my dad got better. And obviously when he was a grandfather, I was like, man, we wish we would have had that experience. But, you know, our lives were very different because, again, he was raised by dad. Me, I always wanted to have my father. As it was the opposite, where I had my mother, he always wanted that love and support because he, for the most part, didn't have it. And so when it came closer to when my father finally passed away, him and I were best friends. Him and I talked, we related more. And the funny thing, you remember when you first got hurt, you're like, oh, I want you to learn martial arts just in case dad does something dumb. You could beat his ass.
Yeah.
So the reason why I started Combat Do or MMA was to beat my dad's ass. It never happened. Somehow it got me closer to him. And we ended up becoming really good friends because I knew how to fight. My dad, we would play fight. We had this bed on like literally that fit the 2 walls on the side here. So he would make me do like backflips off the wall because he would watch Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and just random bullshit. Like, fucking knew how to do nunchucks somehow, like, because he'd watch Bruce Lee and we're like, what the fuck? But the thing was, it's, you know, our visuals as well. And some I started to realize when I started talking about people and their parents and how some of them resent for certain reasons. My visual of my father is very different than his visual of my father. His visual is probably more aggressive. That's why later on in life, he was like, nah, fuck you. I don't want to hang out with you, man, because you might hit me or, you know, it's trauma. Compared to me, I didn't have him, so no matter what, he didn't hit me as much. So I'm like, I'm alive. I'm fine. Let me, Dad, I love you, you know, compared to the opposite, you know. So after your first injury, like, how did your life turn around? Because that was very different because you went to school, and you went to military school, and then you started doing all these random things just to, you know, fucking pursue life. And then, you know, you had your first near fatal injury. Like, what was that like after? Because again, like we're from the outside point of view. I'm not injured. I'm not technically handicapped. I don't have a hearing loss. Like, for people who don't know, my brother got hit in the head with a bat. You know, somebody came and attacked him and then tried to finish it off. And luckily, there were people there to stop it. And I get a call at like 3, 4 in the morning saying that he's in the hospital. And then I'm fucking scared to wake up my dad because I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna end up in the hospital too for waking up my dad because he would beat the fuck out of us. And I remember knocking, I was just like, I was in the hospital. And then we went to Cook County and went there. And little we know, he had to get his skull removed because his brain was swelling up so much that if it didn't have the space, it pops. And so he got his skull removed and they put his skull inside of his stomach. So hopefully it didn't deteriorate as much. But for him not to wake up and panic frantically, they tied him up to the bed. So like visually, you know, you look at some dude who's bleeding here, who possibly thinks he got stabbed because he has stitches here, and he's waking up out of nowhere from probably doesn't remember what the fuck happened, being at a bar, and then just waking up and he can't move his arms. It's like, to me, one of the worst fucking things you can think of is like a movie, you know, like a scary movie, really. So what, if you don't mind me asking, like, what was that like? Like, obviously waking up, do you remember any of it, like going to the hospital or being in the hospital or whatever the case may be?
You know, I do. I remember a lot of things. So I woke up and I was actually in a neck brace. And then I had like this tube in my head and this ball like, you know, crunched up. And little by little, as it started to open, it was like sucking a lot of dead blood out of my head. But I didn't know I had my skull in my stomach. But I did feel like stiff. You know, my stomach felt stiff. It almost felt like the hardest six-pack ever had because, you know, you got your skull in your stomach. You're like, what muscle. The fuck? But at the same time, I'm like, man, I was kind of dreaming that, like, people were putting bricks in my stomach. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in some crazy surgery for the, like, cartel or something, you know? And I'm waking up and I'm like, what the heck's going on? I can't move. My brother came to talk to me, and I wanted to ask him what happened, but I couldn't even talk. I was like, just a gasp of air came out. I'm like,
he had a tube in his mouth to breathe, just in case. So he was like, stick out your hand like this. He would literally, because he's here, you know, because he's latched on. So he's like, put your hand out. He's just like, what does that spell?
Was it an M or an N?
M.
I don't know.
Okay, goddamn, those 3 letters. He's like trying to spell out mom and then dad, and I'm just like, I'm trying to answer the questions and talk to him. You know, I'm just like, fuck, you know, but go ahead.
So then, like, I guess my past started, like, lingering to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm like, Dad whooped my ass so much, I kind of know what pain feels like. You know, so I'm, like, trying to just be patient how my mom taught us, and at the same time, I was like, man, you know, because I used to always hate, you know, obviously getting hit. But then at that moment, I'm like, I was so, how you say, prone to, like, the pain. So I was like, you know, fuck, if I'm patient and I relax, I think I can make it, you know? But it was so weird because, like I said, I couldn't talk. I couldn't barely move. Eventually, when I started talking, I was stuttering. And I was like, whoa, I never stuttered before. You know, just the process of, like, trying to get back to maybe how I was, you know. You ever watch that movie Paid in Full? At the end, the guy's like, I ain't never going to be 100%. But I would try to get it to the 90%. You know, maybe I could start running again. Maybe I can go back and, you know, to the gym, but obviously I can't get punched in the head. I can't spar. I'm like, fuck. I always wanted to either become a fighter because our dad always, like, tried to get us to become an artist, a handyman, or a fighter. And in which we both became something of what he wanted.
Yeah.
But no, just you know, I learned how to be patient, and man, every week or every other day or even every month, I would feel different. You know, I'm like, oh man, I can move my arm now, or I can at least turn my waist. It's so weird that, you know, when the brain gets injured, everything just starts falling apart. I guess I'm very lucky because, you know, I used to always watch my dad struggle at work because he didn't know how to read. So it was crazy. He learned everything hands-on. So, you know, if he didn't know how to do a job, we'll be there fucking like 12 hours. And he finally finished it. I'm like, man, I'm happy for you. You never gave up. So at that moment, I had that, like, heart of a lion at that point. Like, you know what? I can't give up because I kept going to the hospital and I kept getting better and better. And then I would see people that every time I went to the hospital, it was the same person that I was next to when I first got the injury. And like, man, this guy is still the same. He's walking the same. So, you know, he would come and, yo, let's go jogging. And I remember, shit, we went jogging like twice around McKinley Park. Mm-hmm. And what is that, about like 4 miles, 3 miles? And just from there, I just, you know, started getting better and getting stronger. And then, you know, I didn't know how to read neither because, you know, my dad didn't know how to read. So I'd be with him all day. And it used to suck. He's like, read that sign. I'm like, shit, that sign. And I would just start making up words because, like, man, if I don't come up with something fast, I get punched in the face.
It's not like he could check it and, like, check you.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, it starts with H. I want to say honorary.
Well, that's why I told you when you're like, oh, yeah, I'm helping my son with Hooked on Phonics. My dad did Hooked on Phonics. Like, we ended up doing it for like a solid, I think, a week or 2 weeks. And he was like, man, fuck this. You know, like, it just stopped.
Yeah, but it was so funny because he was so mean. Sometimes we had to, like, over smart him without having to get him mad or pissed. Oh, yeah. Because once he was pissed, it was like, oh, this is going to be a boring, quiet night, you know? Especially, like, you know, when you want to go outside and he came home mad, you're just like, fuck, never mind. I'm just going to go back to my bed.
Yeah, well, it's my dad was one of those people, like, especially, he thrived off of naps. And he would thrive off of, like, 4-hour naps, like, good fucking naps. The hard part was, we're home, especially as kids, and, you know, him being a teenager at the time. So we're like, fuck, dad's taking a nap. And when we lived on Walcott, there was no door to any room. So it was just open room. You know, so you could hear everything. So anytime we went to the kitchen or to the bedroom or whatever, it was just like, it was almost like a over-exaggerated movie or a cartoon where you're like, let's go. You know, it's like grabbing shit and we're trying not to, like, snicker, like, you know, because he would literally get up and fuck us up. And that was the scariest thing, to where, like, I gotta pee.
Yeah, you can't flush the toilet.
Yeah.
You know, you can't piss in the water. You
wake up on the bowl, right?
Yeah,
like,
you're just like
quiet.
Shh, you're like, fuck, it hit the water.
Yeah,
you know,
like anytime it hit the water, you're like you would like clench
Stream stop, squeeze your little hose.
Like, okay. Fuck, I'm just gonna hold it. The worst was like, you know, when we're all having fun because he's not home, and then you hear the door open, or his van door open and close, doof, and we all look out the window. And we all go downstairs, and then you hear the dogs running downstairs too, sitting next to us. Like, the man is home.
Yeah, like our dogs were scared of my father. So, like, anytime we'd be downstairs, we'd be like, oh, okay, cool. You hear the dogs come down, we're like, no one called you? Like, what do you... Oh, dad's home. Fuck, you know? And that actually happened to me because, at least for me, I don't know if you had rules from dad, but, like, the rule was don't bring the cops home. I don't care what you do, just don't bring the cops home. Like, you can stay out all day, you can do whatever the fuck you want, don't bring the cops home. And because my dad sold drugs, don't bring anyone home. Like, I don't even care if it's your cousin, like your family, don't bring anyone home. Unless they live in this house, they can't be here. Right. You know? And, you know, as a teenager, I'm like, Yeah, sure. You know, and I'm gonna try to sneak in people. I remember one day I had this one friend that I ended up having to sneak out of his house.
You were getting fucked up from your dad, and you had the balls to sneak in people.
Oh yeah, I was like, fuck it. If I'm gonna get fucked up anyways, I might as well have some fun with this.
Oh, I guess that's a good way to look at it.
And I was outside anyways, and so at times I have video games. So I'm like, I want to be home, play video games with my friends because they didn't have it. And I remember this one cool kid that I stayed at his house one day. Same kind of rule applied, but his mom was just strict. And I remember sneaking out, and he's like, "Oh, dude, how'd you get out?" I was like, "Oh, well, kind of used to this at my house, you know." And I'd get out, and I was fine. He never got in trouble. Then he's like, "Oh, I want to go to your house. I ain't scared of your dad." And we're like 10 years old, dude. You know, we think we're the shit. You know, I was like, "I'm not scared of anybody. I'll beat up anybody." And I brought him over, and every 5 minutes I'd run upstairs because we have this big window in front of our house that our dad used to park in front. So we'd run upstairs and be like, "All right, I don't see the van. Time to go downstairs, play 5 more minutes. I don't see the van, keep on doing it." And then I just lost track of time. And I see the dog walking downstairs, and I'm like, fuck. Dad's home. And I don't know, my friend's like, "What? Your dad's home?" "Oh, no," because my dad had the rule. And he goes, "Tell all your friends if they come over, I'm not just kicking your ass, I'm kicking their ass too." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, we're both fucked." And my friend's like, "Oh, no," started freaking out. And I was like, relax. I'm going to walk upstairs. I'll open up the back door. All you got to do is just walk out. Walk out, you'll be fine. Don't close any of the doors because we had gates. I was like, don't close any of the doors. They're going to make noise, but give me 5 minutes. I'm going to go upstairs, talk to my dad, try to play it cool with him, and then you can have that time to slowly creep and sneak away. That's it. And then I'll meet you at your house later. He's like, okay, cool. I go upstairs, and we used to play Halo all the time. And so I'm like, "Oh, Dad," super over-exaggerated. I'm like, "What's up, man? I love you. I miss you. How have you been?" He's just like, "You know what? Fuck it. I trust this little guy. Like, I love you too. No, I miss you. What? You want to play Halo? You know what? Yeah, I would like to play Halo." And then all you hear is running up the stairs from the kid, Danny, running up the stairs and closes all the doors. All you hear is my dad's like, "Yeah, I love you, miss you." And me, I'm just like, "Yeah." And I just start smiling, and he goes, "You like getting your ass kicked, don't you?" I was like, "Oh, this was kind of funny, Dad." And I got my ass kicked for that. And then later on, I saw my friend at his house. I went to his house, and I'm like limping. He's like, "What happened to you?" I was like, "Man, fuck you," because my dad would just beat us up. So like we had to like be secretive or quiet or whatever. Because my dad, the bad thing with him, again, phenomenal guy when he wanted to be, but when his temper was out, like any little thing would piss him off. Like he ended up moving out eventually, and I took his bedroom. And so I went downstairs, and he gave me a mirror that had his name, DTek, which is a graffiti name. And dude, it's like 6 a.m, and all you hear is, "Man, fuck this shit," like just super mad. And I'm like, oh shit, it's Sunday, dude. Like, come on, man. Like, we can't have a day to relax. And my dad, I don't know, you just hear his footsteps because he would stomp like he was 10 feet tall, and you hear him like walking down the stairs hard as fuck, like, and you're just like, "Don't come to the room." And it was like the boogeyman. Like, let me put the covers over my neck and like look towards the wall and pretend like I'm sleeping. And I don't know, he came into the room, and it so happened to be one time that my room was actually clean, and seriously. And you can tell he just wanted to come down there and just bitch, like take it out on me. And he came downstairs, and he's like, and he looked, and he saw the mirror right next to him, and he kicked the fuck out of it and broke it into like 1,000 pieces. And he's like, "Clean your fucking room," and then closed the door, and the door broke through like the hinge. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it's 6 a.m, And that's just how Dad was. And then I'm like, God damn it, I gotta clean this shit up. So it was weird, and that's why I wanted to beat my dad's ass eventually. Because you fought Dad a couple times, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was crazy. So I got all drunk. I was like 16 years old. I had just came out of boot camp, and my friend was piercing everybody. He became like a tattoo artist.
Oh, that's a good day.
And he pierced my eyebrow, and I was like, "This is fucking rad!" Like,
This is rad.
Like, I'm gonna get the circle earrings and all that stuff.
Now, backstory in Chicago, it's left and right. So gangs are left or right. That's just how you represent people or folks. And my dad was a folk growing up, so everything was on the right side, But continue. And he got the piercing on the left side, right?
Yeah.
So you're representing something. If you have that one earring on that one side or piercing or whatever, you're representing that side. It might not be a specific gang, but that side of gangs.
So I walk in and he's sitting down watching TV in the fucking living room, and he sees it and he's like, oh. And then he looks at my dad, but my dad's still not looking at me, and I started like, I'm just gonna walk halfway in and go to the living room, the dining room, and then go down the stairs to my bedroom in the basement. And I couldn't even make it down the stairs. He turned around, he's like, what the fuck is that? He goes, what are you, fucking gay? And then we just started fighting. And it was the first time I hit him back. I was like, you know what? I just cocked my fucking right arm back and I like, bah, hit him. And the first thing he did is put me in the headlock. And I couldn't get out of it. I was like, damn, this nigga's gonna break my neck. And then I finally got out of it, and, I'm fast. So the first thing I did is I ran out. I ran out the front door, and I was so pissed. The first thing I did, there was just a big old brick, like cinder block in front of our house. I just grabbed it and threw it through his front window of his van. I was like, whoo. And I was just so mad. And he chased me around the block. I ended up getting away, but at that moment, like, man, if I would have got caught, he literally would have killed me. But I don't know, it was the first time that I had the balls to get crazy on him. And, like I said, he was only an asshole or he was really nice. He was never nothing in the middle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was one extreme or the other.
And it was crazy because, like, the next day, I'm like, man, I got to go to school, My shit's all bleeding and, like, the earrings hanging. But I'm like, man, I got to keep it in. You know what I'm saying? I paid $30 for it, And I'm on Honorary, and I'm walking towards Walcott, but I still got to get all the way to California to get to Kelly High School.
It's a good ways.
And out of nowhere, my dad comes out the alley, and I'm like right on the right side of him, but he only looks left. And then he turns, but I felt like I just shitted on myself for a second because I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy that's going to kill me. And, man, he went to school to, like, find me, but I never went. I was so petrified. I ended up, I was going to summer school at that time, so I never went back to summer school. But then, yeah, right after that, I was like, I'm never going to get another piercing again. I literally took it off and let it heal. And I was like, I felt like this was, besides him always being mad, when I walked, my dad was like hobophobic,
Yeah,
like,
homophobic.
yeah.
He like my mom.
He said hobophobic.
Oh, that too. Fuck, he hated hobos. my mom, like, after my dad passed away, I went through my own mental bullshit. I guess I turned a little bit emo, and I was like, fuck it, let me paint my nails for my fight, and I'll do like purple and black, just represent him, because that's what really resonated to me with my father was his gang and his color. So like, let me do purple and black. And my mom's like, your dad would think you're gay, right? I was like, yeah. And then years later, I dye my hair purple for one of my fights. My mom's like, okay, whatever. You did it for your fight to Persona. And then I came home and re-dyed it. And she goes, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm dyeing my hair. It's I think it's cool. Like, it's a persona in a sense for fighting. And she's like, but you don't have a fight. I was like, oh yeah, but I know it's kind of, it's like my image now. She goes, man, your dad would be so disappointed. I was like, yeah, trying to make dad proud.
Yeah, my dad was really, he just, he
It's old
worked,
school, yeah.
Man worked with his hands, fought a lot out on the streets, whether they didn't have the money or we went back to the neighborhood to go get the money, but the other rival gangs were in the neighborhood and about to jump his gang, but my dad would be right behind, and he'd be like, pass the gun, and I'm like, fuck. Here, I'm only, he wasn't even born yet,
No.
So, I was pretty young, active in this crazy life that as I grew up, when I seen other things, I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is nothing. Like, I guess just the image and the shit that I seen put me as a Like even with the patients, like it's all right, don't worry. Either I've been through worse, or I've seen worse, or this is nothing. You know, most people would be like, I'm not even hanging with this guy, or I'm not gonna, chill with this person to get into these like moments of hecticness of you don't know what's gonna happen. You know, man, we'd be at like red lights and people either shooting or throwing bricks at the windows, and I just see my dad retaliate. And after so long, especially after he was born, he stopped doing a lot of like going to the north side, trying to do other stuff. Man, I used to see him make crazy stacks, always buying different cars. And then, he slowed it down with like a lot of the handiwork and plumbing. And it was really wild because you're like, man, you're making this much money doing this, but you're doing so much work, but you're only charging this, because, he didn't know how to read. So he was learning. So even with those like moments and that advice or that vision that I seen him going through hard times. So when I do jobs, I'm like, I'm not going to do it this way. I start making my own little steps so they become easier for me. But also even before you were born, like he would finish a job and sometimes we would go to different parks because he was a handyman. So we're all over the city, like citywide. And like, fuck, I'm going to stop at this basketball court and we're going to play some basketball. Or I see him playing football, so I'm going to stop out and play some football. And that's where I end up getting being athletic because of watching him, But yeah, then you were born and I was like, I always wanted a brother, So I was like, at one moment, I'm thinking like, man, it'd be cool to have a brother because now maybe we could fuck dad up. and so many times we're like, my mom would be like, oh, you're going to have a brother. And I'm like, man, how about I just become his dad? Because dad's not going to take care of him right, But it was finally like, I had a brother to play with. But as I was growing up, hanging around with a bunch of my buddies, and then I would see him coming around, trying to hang around with my buddies, like, don't do this
Yeah,
shit.
he'd kick me out. He's like, no, go home. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm just like, but I want to hang out. But like later on in life, you start to realize like, oh, that's why he did it. You have to be open to that.
Right.
Especially like later on when I started to forgive my father, I was like, what's your job as a parent? Hopefully you give your kids a better life than what you had. Hopefully. Whether it's 1% better or 100% better. 1% better is still technically passing. You did the job. Might not have been as good as you wanted, but it is what it is. At the time when I was looking at stuff, I was like, man, my life isn't great, but it's a lot better than his, And so I looked at my dad. My dad didn't have a father. He was taken from his mom or taken from his father in Puerto Rico by his mom, and then went to New York and Puerto Rico, and then had gang life. Our grandmother wasn't the best parent at the time to him. And, my dad had really negative male role models in his life, so he didn't know how to raise us. So the only way he was taught to raise us was how he was taught. Get his ass kicked, be yelled at. Like, that's all he knew, So sadly, he, took it out on you and then was like, maybe I should bring this down a little bit, and then took it out a little bit on me. And then when Tito came, we're like, hit him, fuck, why won't you hit him? It's just that growing process. So like, I think my dad went through his cycle mentally by the time, his life finished. And even like mom, for me, and I see it now, like I'm a lot more of an adult or like a business-like adult because of her, because she was always like, we need to do this on time. You can never miss a day of school, no matter if you're fucking dying or not. Like, you got to go to school. You got to do all these things, because if not, I'm super scheduled. I'm super like hopefully multi-talented of acting, modeling, and thank you, Mom, because you made me do all that stuff, but in a positive way. Like, she made me do all these things because she's like, I couldn't do that for him, but now later on in life, I now have a little more money. I'm a little more financially successful to be able to give my kids more. Whether they do it in life or not, at least I can say I tried this, and if it worked out well, then great. If it doesn't, like, cool. At least they were out of the neighborhood.
Right.
So my mom gave me a lot of stuff, and now, with you as again trying to make up for lost time, if you want to say, rather late than never, as I built my relationship with Dad later on and hopefully matured and not try to be like him, you get to be a little closer to mom, where she's, like you said, with the bills, like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you got to pay this. Come on, Londo, what the, and she's always doing those random things. I had that my whole childhood. So now I'm like so independent, but almost sometimes too independent, where I don't ask for help, or I'm like, nope, I can do it myself. I don't give a fuck. I'm prideful, So it's a process. Do you have any mommy or daddy issues?
Yeah, I don't talk to my mom right now. Yeah, we just she and my dad split when I was real young. She was real abusive towards him, but then got a temporary restraining order on him, so we didn't see him for a while. I had felt super separated from him, so I've been trying to mend my relationship with him, and we don't get along at all. She used to sell presents from my grandparents for like weed or coke and stuff like that, so we just don't get along.
So she was fun.
Yeah, but I mean, she hasn't really changed too, so...
My mom sent dad to jail a couple times, and even one time sent him to jail, visited him on his birthday, just to tell him that she's not taking him out so he can learn his lesson. Because my dad would beat my mom all the time. Like, they stayed at like women abuse shelters, So like, my mom's a fucking G. Like, she's like, nope, I'm gonna come visit you and tell you fuck you to your face and then leave, until your sentence is done. So like, my mom's tough as shit, dude. There was one time, and you remember this after the fact. I was there, sadly, during trauma. Was my mom and dad split many times, and my dad was that guy that he was persistent. He never wanted to let her go, for whatever the case may be, love or whatever. But he never wanted to let her go. And that's what dad lived on the north side with Fat Paul, and I stay with my mom, and I was like, Mom, I want to see dad. I want to see dad, because I didn't know. One day, dude, I had perfect attendance. And when my dad would drop off me at school, and then my mom, and then go to work. And he, at the time, was in Kelly High School or summer school, whatever the case may be. I got dropped off at school, and at the time, some girl's like, hey, your mom's downstairs to pick you up. It's like 9 a.m. I was like, dude, I just got here. It's like, what do you mean? I'm 9 years old, so I know nothing. And I remember my mom takes out of school. It's my first time missing school in like 4 or 5 years. And so we moved to my uncle's house, and I didn't see my dad for 2 months. I didn't see him for 2 months, my dog, my family, my friends. And I'm like, where's everybody? And then my mom finally tells me, like, hey, I left your dad. I'm not with them anymore, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, well, fuck me. Okay. And then she never let me see my dad. I was like, I want to see dad. And so finally, I got to see him a few times. And but it would always be like him picking me up to go see my father. They never wanted to be together, because my mom also knew how my dad was. And so one day, my mom's like, hey, your dad said he's going to meet you here at Kelly High School. There's a park right in front of Kelly High School, like 7 a.m. to pick me up. I was like, okay, cool. Like, fine with me. I'm, I think, 10 or 11 years old at the time. And I tell Mom, I was like, all right, just drop me off at Kelly and cool, I'll see Dad. She goes, no, I'm going to stay with you. It's 7 a.m. The Kelly neighborhood is, whatever. I'm like, Mom, it's 7 a.m. No thugs are out at 7 a.m. Like, they're out at night. And she goes, no, I'm going to stay with you. I was like, if Dad sees you, he's going to want to, like, talk to you. Whether it's aggressively or not, he's going to want to talk to you. And she goes, no, I'll stay with you. And I don't know, her and I lose track of just paying attention to stuff. And my dad's van pulls in, and there's only one way out, and it's like an alley. And I was like, Mom, Dad's there. You got to go. And she's like, oh, shit. And just runs to the car and takes off, right? And my dad and it's one of those, like, roll down windows. My dad goes, rolls down the window. He's like, get the fuck in the car. And I'm trying to stall so my mom can drive away. And I'm like, what? And he's like, get the fuck in the car before I kick your ass. I'm like, I heard that. And I fucking get in the car. And he's like, he goes through the alley, and we can't see my mom. And he's like, which way'd she go? And it's a 4-way street, and she usually goes straight. So I was like, oh, she went right. And so he goes through the red light, goes right. And we fucking pull up right behind my mom. And I'm like, fuck. And it ends up being like a movie scene. We all just start running red lights, and it becomes a car chase. And my mom had a little red Corolla, or a Toyota Camry. My dad had this big-ass work van. And we're chasing each other. And somehow we end up on this one street. No fucking cars, no people. I don't know if my mom saw Fast and Furious or some shit, but she wanted to randomly, like, try to do a U-turn. And so she's driving and does this, and my fucking dad drove right into her. Like, had no time to react, but drove right into her. And my mom's in the driver's seat, and we hit my mom, And she doesn't get hit, but the car gets hit. It's, like, literally this close away from hitting her. That's how far the car got dented in. And my mom looks, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm freaking out, like, what the fuck? 9 years old, 10 years old. And I look up, my mom's doing this to my dad. as the car is being hit like this and pushed back. My mom was like, fuck you. And then my dad stops the car. Her car skids, and then she just takes off. And my dad's like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I fucked up again. And then we get home, and my dad's walking around paranoid as shit. He's like, it's not that bad, right? It's not that bad. Yeah, we're good. And so he pulls up at the car just to show him the damage so he can pay for all that shit. And we see from the passenger side, my brother gets out of the car. We see from the passenger side, we're like, yeah, the car looks good. Yeah, we're good. And then we go to the one side, and her car door is completely dented in. And again, it was like this close to hitting her. Like, it's, do you remember driving the car when it was
Just
all
a scratch?
Like, yeah, just a scratch. It was
Look cosmetic.
It was pretty bad.
Couple paint will buff out, right?
That car actually went through a lot of shit.
You know, I'm surprised my dad didn't steal another car and then bring it back
Take the
home.
door off.
And take the door off and the fender. He used to do crazy stuff, like, all the time. I'm like, oh, whose car is that? He's like, I'm taking it apart.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta help you. I don't want to be, because I went to jail with my dad one time.
Accessory to a crime kind of thing?
No, just he didn't have a license, so we did a job, we tore up a whole bathroom, and 50 pulls us over and was like, man, I know you're a good guy, but since you don't have no license, I gotta take you in. And so they never put us in the bar jails, but we're sitting down and I'm like, hey Dad, we're not in the cell, let's just dip. He's like, nah, bro, I don't even know where we're at. We're in the suburbs, I'm like, oh, well, okay, well, I feel like I gotta leave. Well, man, he was something else. Just knowing that anything can happen when you're with him, whether it's fun, which was fun, or the crime or anything bad was like, okay, well, I gotta follow your rules at all times. Otherwise, it's just like getting fucking beat up all crazy.
Yeah.
Which, man, it's really wild when you don't want to do something, but when you're kind of forced to do it, you're like, oh, fuck it, it's not so bad, Because you're like, I'd rather do bad stuff than get beat the fuck up.
Yeah.
But now it's a little different. We're really calm at home, even though we miss them. But it's a lot different now. We're just patiently chilling. We don't argue with each other, or we don't have to be kind of sneaky for a sense, or trying to figure out something.
Walk on eggshells kind of thing.
Yeah. Thin ice, so it's cool, my mom goes out a lot with her friends, It's fun.
She's free.
She's living it up.
She's definitely,
Yeah.
dude. She's free.
She's
as
living
fuck.
it up.
Like right now, I barely talk to my mom, and I love her to death. But her and I have this business relationship where we'll only call each other if we need something, or like, hey, you got some mail at the house. If you can come pick that up, that'd be awesome. Oh, I love you. I hope everything's well. Bye. And you're like, oh, it's nice catching up, Mom. Like yesterday, every time I call her now, she's out. I'm just like, oh, you're really making up for lost time. She's just enjoying life because my dad caged her up for 30 years, if not more, So it's...
And then she was stuck with
She
you.
was 18. Oh, dude, she was... Yeah.
Everything's changed. Like, the way she cooks, the cleaning is different, the way she organizes
She don't even cook
things.
anymore. What do you know? It says.
No,
Only when I'm home.
she does.
I love you, Mom.
Yeah, Mom, Angel's coming home. I'll be ready for some enchiladas. But yeah, she cooks different. There's not so much fried food all the time, because my mom was Mexican and my dad was Puerto Rican. So, we're always eating, not that it's bad. We loved it, but I gave up on pork chops.
Yeah.
My dad loved pork chops
No, it's
3 times
Puerto
a
Rican,
week.
that's the Puerto Rican slur for a Puerto Rican. It's pork chop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
You
if
know,
you see
start
a
using
Puerto
that now.
Rican,
A lot of
oh,
fried
what's up, pork chop?
chicken.
That's yeah.
Everything was just fried.
Yeah.
Obviously, the only thing that she cooks a lot now still is the
Rice and
Puerto
beans.
Rican rice.
Yeah,
arroz con gandules, and it's fucking fire. But not just that, she always knew how to cook, but mixing it up with my dad, she became a really great cook. Even if you were to come by Chicago, you wouldn't want to leave. She's an amazing cook.
She's a person that sticks by your side. No matter what. We're her sons. No matter what bullshit, we've both done our fair share of she sticks by us. sadly, and someone I want to talk about was like, you've died twice, dude.
Yeah.
The fucked up part is I have trauma that when people call me that don't usually call me, my mom or sometimes him or my manager, like, or your friends, your friends don't call me, and I'm like, fuck, what did he do or what happened? Like, it's always something bad. And it's always like something at 3 a.m. I'm like, fuck, who died? Like, that's my automatic, like, who died? Did I get fired? Did I lose something? Like, what happened? And he ended up being, was it 17 times? He got stabbed.
He got stabbed 14 times.
14. That, like, he had a whole body blood transfusion, all that stuff. And the crazy thing, like, we're talking about the brain, this motherfucker, so 2 things. He got stabbed, but was in, not in a coma, but he was still sedated. And so for me, I was just like, dude, I just got announced for my first title fight in Titan. And I was like, oh man, I was going to leave tomorrow, but I'm going to stay here with my brother like I did with the first injury. My mom's like, no, your brother's going to want you to go, so you should go. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I ended up leaving. He didn't wake up for like, I guess he was in a coma for like a few days, So when he called me, I was like, damn, you're like Bruce Willis from Die Hard. You just won't fucking die. Like, he just, like, I don't know how to handle trauma. So bad situations, I make jokes, and he just laughed, But the first days that he was awake, he was speaking Spanish. You tell him to say anything in Spanish right now, it ain't gonna come out clean. But he was speaking perfect Spanish.
It's like one of those things where like people get like head trauma and they just wake up speaking Chinese.
Dude, no English
It was
whatsoever.
crazy.
He was just speaking, and my cousins, who were the ones who never got the privilege of really speaking Spanish at the house, all of our cousins speak Spanish. So when they came in and he's speaking, they're like, what the fuck? Like, we know you don't speak Spanish, so what the, and he was perfect.
Do you have like a cool accent too? Or?
Yeah, the gringo just jumped out of me, and I was just straight paisa right there.
like a radio DJ?
Yeah, like, órale, güey, ¿cómo estás? Like, I was given that, it felt like I was 100% from Mexico. I had Indian friends come visit me, and I'm just talking to them in Spanish, and they're like, hey, Orlando, I'm Indian, I'm not Spanish, and I just kept going. That was a whole different situation with, I guess, the pain from my dad. And then, I get every 10 years, it's weird, something happens to me. So, like, even my chiropractor's like, hey, man,
We're getting close, man.
in a couple more months, just stay in. Like I say, don't come outside. The devil's looking for you.
It's about that time? It's year 10?
Dude, he's it's funny because we call him a cat. Before those 2 incidents, like, he's had multiple injuries where, like, I remember him telling me a story of, like, him jumping off train tracks and fucking landing in a tree like this, getting stuck by the branches, but somehow none of the branches went in him. Like, they all just somehow slided, but he came home looking like he got attacked by a bear. I'm just like, what the fuck? I jumped, hid from the cops, 4 hours, whatever. And then it just kept on going. Like, it's crazy how wild his life has been, whether it's been, like, doing shit positively and then bad shit happens, or out of depression, and because I've done my fair share of bullshit where you're like, yeah, I probably should have done that. That was dumb, And then obviously the 2 near fatal things. Like, you've pursued the one thing I want to talk about. This motherfucker's willpower is ridiculous. 1, just because he won't fucking die, but then 2, knock on wood. But 2, he had to have a whole blood transfusion, for his body, and was stabbed 17 times.
17 units of blood put in me.
There you go. And I think your body holds 16, give or take. So you right now maybe fucking 17. But but he was like, oh, I got to go see my brother fight. Because I had my first ever title fight as a professional. I'm main event on a card. And the nurse is like, no, dude, you can't go. Like, there's no way we're going to let you on a plane. And he's like, I'll place a bet, right? Was it like, if I can walk and if I can move and do all these certain things, then can I go? And they're like, I mean, yeah, but that's going to take a while. And this fucker did his own rehab and plus more to just be able to go. And he shows up. So 2 things. 1, when he was actually being taken to the hospital, he's like, I got to see my brother fight because he already knew that I had a title fight. He has his fucking organs in his hand and, like, trying to stick them back in, and he's telling the ambulance people that. He wakes up doing the rehab. I need to see my brother fight. Gets to go to Miami to see me fight, and I'm the first time for me cutting down to 125, 57 kg. He weighed the exact same as I did. He's always weighed about 180, give or take. Right now, 190, 200. but
Maybe
he weighed
205.
125 because of how much blood and muscle he lost. And the most positive and like painful thing for me was I never saw him. You know, I don't know how this is impacting. So I'm doing my training camp 2 months. And I'm fucking dying from this weight cut. And he's like, hey, I'm downstairs. I'm coming up to the room. I'm like, okay, cool. And he had sutures, so he couldn't fully like posture up. And he's walking like this, like he's 5'2", 5'1". And I look and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy at the end of the hall? And it's him. He looked like fucking Igor from the Notre Dame movie. You know, like he's walking like this with a hunch on his back because he can't fully posture, and he's skinny. He looks like he's cutting weight. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, man, I'm here. You know, he looks dry. And I have to go work out. I was like, well, I'm going to go work out right now. He goes, I'll go work out with you. I'm just like, what? Like, dude, you can barely walk. He goes, I'll walk on the treadmill next to you. I was like, okay. And so I'm trying to do this interval run to sweat. And I see him just struggling just to walk. But he's like, you know, puts the number down or puts it up or incline. And he's just like, keep on going. And I'm just like, fuck, man, well, I have no choice but to keep on going now, you know, and I ended up eventually making weight and winning my first world title and giving a shout out, and he's fucking crying in the ring as he always does. But it's crazy how much, not just love he has for just fucking staying alive, but for me in general. Like it is a weird thing to say because I'm not one to show affection. He's the complete opposite. I think because he never got affection, he fucking throws it out there. He's like, oh, love me and I love you, and because I'm full of love, I just never got it. Me, I was like, I had too much love. Again, I'm like Squidward now. I'm like, leave me the fuck alone, people, you know? So it's very different now. It's like, oh, this motherfucker loves me. It's ridiculous.
So it was really tough to try to make it to his fight because obviously I was drained. I didn't drink water for like 2 months, and I'm telling everybody that's coming to visit me, I'm like, yo, bring buckets of water and put my foot in it, put my hands in it, grab a rag, and just wipe my whole body with water so I can feel like my body's absorbing water. At that moment, I'm thinking of Wolverine, you know, when he gets fucked up and he gets into like this tube of water, and I'm just trying to rehydrate myself. And it's like 50-50, you know, because the nurses are in and out, but they're so freaking busy. It's like, man, are they going to change my pee bag? Are they going to come and change my galls out of my stomach? So I'm over there like performing surgery on myself. Like I'm like, man, I'm going to take this gauze out. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know what the fuck this bottle is. And the lady's like, it's saline. And like, well, I need a lot of that shit right now to make the gauze soft. So basically, even when I went to go see him, I still had my stomach open and I still had this arm open. And they couldn't close this, and I still needed surgery on this and my stomach. They already closed this, and I had a whole bunch of cuts where they closed up, but they're like, yo, you're so bruised that not even staples will close your stomach, you know, because it was just like kind of like how I look now.
But injury, yeah.
But
inflammation.
You know, they're like, yo, you can go watch your brother fight if you could walk and put your clothes on. And man, it was like, can I try to walk right now? And I fell and I stood up literally for 3 days. They're like, take a nap. And I was like, this could be my last nap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to go to sleep. And they finally, you know, 3 days later, they let me walk again. And I did like 5 or 6 steps. And I was like, oh, I'm exhausted. And like, lay me back down. And then like 4 hours later, I decided to get up by myself. And all you see is like the drapes from the door go over my head. And they're like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? So they all surrounded me so I won't fall, you know? And I just kept walking. And then from there, it was like, after like the 3rd walk, I would just start walking by myself. And I'd get up. And they would run to me like, hey, you can't do this. And I'm like, my next step is to learn how to put my clothes on. And then I could watch my brother fight, you know? Mm-hmm. Which was really cool because, you know, I watched him fight. And then I was like, shit, I still got to go back home and do like 4 more surgeries. you know, because even this arm, it was dead. Like, I couldn't even move nothing. It was like they were going to cut my whole wrist off. And they said all my nerves were dead. And, you know, I'm in Florida, and it's just so dry. And he's like, hey, dude, what are you, fucking Michael Jackson? Because I ended up having one glove on a hand because my whole hand was just freezing. And basically, when I got back, they took all the nerves from my left foot to put on my hand. And I swear, the same day I woke up, I was like, oh my gosh, I can move my fucking fingers, you know? But yeah, I ended up doing a lot. Like, I guess I never really cried until the last stitch was off. I'm like, whew. I'm like, I don't have to go through this shit ever again. You know, let's keep training. You know, you got to meet Master Bob, and every day, you know, I end up going to the gym. And at one point, you know, I went so much, I was already moving good. Like, I was doing bear runs. I was doing, I always say it, where you're on your foot and somebody's whole wheelbarrow, you know? So then I started getting strong again, and then I started teaching class at 10 a.m. And I was like, okay, you know, I got the key to the dojo. I'm getting strong again. I was like, man, it's fucking crazy that they fucking almost sliced my whole body up, that I'm able to, like, run, move, be strong than most. With all these, like, little injuries, it made me learn how to read a lot, you know, which it felt good because now I have better opportunities on, like, eating different foods and stuff, like when I go read the menus at restaurants. And it blew up my life because I always like, man, if my dad knew how to read, this motherfucker was smart. Like, everything he learned was hands-on, but, man, you give him a book and he's like, he can't even get through the first page, you know? So it feels good, you know? Sometimes, I hate to say it like this, but sometimes we all got to go through something really bad for us to get to the next level, you know? And sometimes, you know, little things might not be so bad to somebody, but they think it's super bad, you know? Like our next door neighbor, he goes, man, I never have a bad day. You know, the only time you have a bad day is if you die. And then a week later, he died.
Fucking died.
And we're like, damn, he had a bad day. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Dude,
like,
no bullshit. Dude, he fucking died of a brain aneurysm. Like, super cool guy. Fucking miss you, Gary. Super cool guy. Kind of like, you ever seen Home Improvement? With the dude behind the fence? That was him. Like, he'd always watch over us, give me phenomenal advice, especially as a teenager. Again, he was gone, so he was like that, like, uncle on the side, you know, that's always like, I got you, you know, the neighborhood watch guy. And one day we come home and there's ambulances and police in front. We're like, what happened? And our next door neighbor's mom, who at the time was like 70, she's old now, but she's just like, Gary died. He had a headache and passed out in the bathroom, and, you know, the brain aneurysm blew up, so he died. That was it. Like, so we're just like, oh fuck,
we're like,
Gary had a bad day.
Gary was right.
You know?
Yeah.
So even with, like, this crazy injuries that I've been through, and you know, I always say to everybody that's been through something, like, don't give up, you know?
Yeah, man. No, you do it. The one thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, so two things. One, just a funny story, but then two is after your first injury with the skull, the doctor comes in and they go, hey, sir, you have a soft spot in your skull. If that gets touched in any sort of way, you can go brain dead or you could die. So you need to wear this helmet for the rest of your life. And they pull out this white helmet with a rainbow strap. It looked like something from Jackass, yeah. And we're like, yep, you gotta wear it for the rest of your life. You know, we're just taking photos and having fun. He's like, man, fuck that. Literally a week, maybe 2 weeks after his skull injury, you know, the stitches are out, but dude, you still got a soft spot. He's fucking playing tackle football outside with friends, like hard, and he's like a running back style, so he's always at the ball doing his thing, and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna fucking die. After that, he goes sparring and does actual fights. He's punting, you know, smart with headgear at least, but still, headgear only does so much, you know, and he's doing fucking everything. So nothing really has changed besides obviously the capability of doing stuff. Like he's still doing it. He might be in a sense handicap of being held back, fully to be athletic as he wants to be, but he's fucking doing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Even like I play a lot of basketball now, and I get the ball and the guy's defending me, and then I just turn the jets on. Like I use my speed to like get where I need to go. Even though now, even when I break down to 180, I still look stocky as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm small, but man, I like boxing out people when I'm playing basketball to get the rebound because it's hard to get rebound. But in my mind, once I box you out, I use a lot of MMA techniques to have more of a strength and then low gravity like advantage. So I'm pushing them out the way. I'm always putting my knee on the back of their knee. It's like, what the fuck did you just do? And like, techniques. Like what I'm saying?
Immortal technique.
But I don't know, just all in general in life is tough, and you just gotta be, you gotta have a strong willpower, because there's so many times where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go kill these motherfuckers that got me. And at one point, I'm like, man, even if I killed them or even if I hurt them, I still have to live at how I am, regardless. So I'm like, you know what? Let's be patient and just let's focus on myself. And then with people needing help with their houses, and I do a lot of murals. So like I'm doing murals for restaurants.
Which is that's something I want to talk about is his outlet to be different was art. My father, phenomenal at like pencil and pen drawings. Randomly, because he didn't know how to read, he would draw out things. Like, I need these pipes, I need these tools, and this is how your house is gonna look, or that room's gonna look when it's done. And you're like, oh shit. He would do Bob Ross like murals. He's like, oh, he would watch Bob Ross. He's like, this is how you do it, and then do it better. You're like, what the fuck? Like he just was super talented. And he got that artistic skill where he's like, I'm gonna do graffiti. And given that's how he got in trouble a lot when he was a teenager, but now he's using it to do positivity in the neighborhood legally, where he's drawing permission walls and doing contests, and whether he's fucking drawing me up or drawing up Team Shorty or writing his own name and doing different characters of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Transformers, or it's like you see his art around city to where when I was in junior high, graffiti was becoming real big. What was that one website you used to go on? Was it 12 ounce?
Yeah, 12 ounce profit.
It was like yeah, it's like MySpace but for graffiti, And so he was always on it, and he was real popular in Chicago, to where people were like, "Who's DTek? Who's DTek?" And they found out that he was my big brother. And so when I was in junior high, people would show up with their black books, the graffiti book, and go, "Hey, can your brother do a little piece for me?" And I'd go to the house with like fucking $5, $6, because kids my age wanted, a DTek in their book drawn perfectly, like their signature, but, graffiti wise. And he was like the celebrity when I was a kid. Like, they're like, oh, your brother's DTek. Compared to like now, it's like, your brother's Shorty, you know? So it's like we're always popular in our own little fashion. So like, the graffiti now you're doing murals, now you're doing all this stuff, and you're making money for it too. You're not just doing it in a sense illegally back when you first started graffiti. Like how does that feel to be able to go, fuck, I've done some shit with my life and now I'm doing some positive in the neighborhood too?
It feels good. It's a whole different view, a different prospect of like wanting to go out and thinking like, how am I gonna sneak to that spot and paint it, and then think about outlets to run just in case cops do come. And then you're like, okay, if cops come this way, I'm gonna jump off the building and get on the street pole and slide down, and then I'm gonna run across the street and get away. But now it's just like, it's cool. We're getting paid for it. We put on our vests. We got our like lifts. We're not going to certain stores walking out with full carts of spray cans like, we used to do. But getting paid for it, it's amazing because you think about like, man, I could have probably started this as soon as I started it, graffitiing. But at the same time, sometimes you got to go through stuff to get better and better and better. And that's where a lot of people come from, Sometimes you got to get roughed up to get better. And I feel good because, man, getting paid for it's amazing. You know, when you're going to a wall and you're like, man, I was only here for one day and I just made $3,000 off a mural. And what I like to call it, me and my friend Worm, we're like, yo, we're getting our refund back, basically. We're getting our money back from everything that we did for free, because it's fun to make money off of stuff that you would do for free all the time. Like, for instance, my dad's work. He would give me like $40 a day to work with him all day. And, you know, even though I wasn't out there in life, I'm like, man, I got $40, you know? Next day, damn, I got $80. The end of the week, I got like 2 something, you know? I'm like, man, none of my friends got this money. You know, I'm in 7th grade, you know? But even now, you know, I can go do a job and make $1,000 in one day just for doing something that I would have did free or for $40, you know? So it feels good to be really knowledgeable and just helping people, because, you know, sometimes I feel like my dad. I'm like, man, you don't know how to do that with fucking common sense. You know, my dad used to always say that shit. Fucking common sense. So, like, sometimes I bring friends to work, and I'm like, man, they don't know shit. And then I'm like, okay, man, you see the teeth on this scraper? It goes on the wall with the concrete. And then the other half of it, it's flat, and that goes onto the tile. And then they're putting the line, the scraper, the teeth on the tile, and I'm like, he goes, what was that? I'm like, it's my dad fucking you up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, I know how times is changing, like with the kids, and, you know, the rules like, hey, kid, you're in trouble. Give me 20 push-ups or stand on the corner. But I feel like, man, you hit that little fucker one time, he is never doing it again. Like, you know what I'm saying? I would like for that to be, you know, bring up to life, because, man,
brought back.
Yeah, because I feel like
okay. No, it's hey, we're canceled. No.
When I see like the new kids, I'm like, man, these little motherfuckers are weak. Like, you know, or maybe they're petty. You know, I guess back in my dad's day, it was just principle. You know, whether it was $1 or $100, it's just the principle on how an individual acts or tries to treat a certain person when they're around, you know. I always feel like hanging out with my dad, everybody should be respected from when you meet them until the end, you know. And if you feel like they disrespect, don't even get mad at them. Just push off and, you know, stop hanging with them, you know. Good energy is always good to have around you, you know. But, man, I don't know what I would do if my dad was still alive. You know, I don't know if I would be doing plumbing. Maybe I'd be like calling somebody like, yo, man, send me a pound of weed. And then I'm going to start bagging it up, you know, or maybe trying to full-time draw and trying to figure out like, man, can I finally sell this mural for $100?
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, everything takes a process, you know. Even like my first job by myself, I'm like, man, how am I going to charge these people, you know? And learning by, you know, saying, you know what, 500. Then they pay it right away. And I'm like, maybe I could have told them 700, 800, or 1,000. So, you know, as doing everything myself, I'm learning a lot, and I keep getting better and better every day. And what's cool is I have that life that I'm never scared to try something. And that's the moment where I'm like, hey, don't fucking try this. This fucking sucks, you know? So I guess you never know the feeling unless you've done it already. You know, I've had actions where I'm like, man, I can go this way or go this way. Oh, I know this is maybe the right way, but I'm going to go this way. And then later on, I'm like, damn, I feel kind of funky. Like, I don't feel good. But then I take that other choice and I'm like, I go do it, and then my heart and my mind and my conscience feels better. I'm like, man, I'm glad I went with that good choice. So that's what I'm on now. I'm trying to always make the better choice around what I'm going to do, how I'm going to perform, how I'm going to react around the crowd, you know, whether there's a lot of beef in the neighborhood, and I'm at a mural battle piece, and there's all these like good people and all these like other people that I don't fuck with. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go enjoy my time. I'm not gonna let their persona change my mood, you know? And just about that, I'm just right now, I'm living life and traveling. I've been to like 7 different cities this year and maybe 2 different countries. And I'm just enjoying myself, you know? I know definitely I have to go back to the gym because we're like, you know, my dad and my mom, they're always fit, you know? So we had like basically 2 warriors and they made 2 baby warriors, you know? And we're always on action. Me and my brother, we love competition. We want to always bring the bright out of somebody. We always want them to compete at their best, but without, you know, no intentional fouls.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I see people foul in any sport, I'm like, you either didn't learn right or you're just overactive, you know? But any sport between basketball, fighting, whether I'm battling, drawing, or I'm in my own state of mind at work, like trying to figure out a plumbing situation, you know, because my jobs are always like different and hectic. And then with my short-term memory, I'm like 100 times to the van. Maybe I need this too. Maybe I need this too. So the time I finish my project, I'm like, damn, I got the whole van in the house. I got to take it all back. But I'm feeling good, you know, going through what I've been through and then helping people that have never been helped, you know. And it's crazy because sometimes, you know, in case maybe somebody in the future is watching this video, like they listen to it and they're like, you know, it gives them motivation to do better, you know, whether they didn't know me or they knew me, you know.
Well, I can tell you the last thing I wanted to bring up to more close out the podcast, because I know we're definitely running out of time here, is you and Dad, both especially because you didn't get, in a sense, the childhood or the upbringing that, you know, you wish you would have gotten or definitely deserved, and trying to make it up for lost time, where Dad was the same way, where you was just, fuck it, I'll teach you some skills so you can learn later on in life. You the same way, where you're helping people, taking them to jobs, teaching them graffiti, or, you know, taking care of your own kids, trying to give them a better life than what you had, or trying to be my father in a sense and raise me the right way, where it didn't work out well for you. Shit, I went left and then go, you should go right, and, you know, figure out some things. You and Dad was the inspiration for making my foundation, the Team Shorty Foundation. And the reason why, because for me, when I started the foundation, when I got to the gym, I had positive male role models. You know, like, again, you guys are positive around me, but visually everything else you did wasn't so positive. So Master Bob, all the guys at Combat Dough, all the instructors were my positive male role models that say, you should do this, you should do that, and this will help you more. You gave me that pathway to get there. And if it weren't for the gym, I wouldn't obviously be where I'm at. I also graduated college because of MMA. I was able to, you know, obviously create a career about this and then help Mom at times of need, stuff like that. So I've been able to create this foundation to give kids, teens, and young adults a way to get out of the streets and into the gym to where they can be around those positive male role models, whether they want to be professional MMA fighters or not, just to go, cool, I'm out of the hood, I'm out of the street, and hopefully decide to do whatever they want, or even martial arts, build your confidence to be responsible and learn some morals and achieve whatever you want to achieve, be competitive like we talked about. So all the people that have been a part of my foundation, that kid Edgar from Peru that you saw in Colombia, and a bunch of the other kids, like, technically they have to thank you as well, you know, because that is phenomenal that you've been able to help inspire me to help these kids as well. Because, you know, I know if you had the opportunity back in the day, dude, you would have been fucking amazing. And most of us, you know, we obviously could have done better things, whatever. But you give a lot of people a different opportunity, and being able to say that, fuck, you've died twice. There's technically, in a sense, more than one life. You're fucking like, I'm still trying. I'm still going until it's finally my time to go. You know, so you, Dad, and all that stuff were an inspiration to create my foundation. So I appreciate you. I love you. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you and all decisions you made, whether good or bad or whatever the case. But you technically made the best decisions for me because I'm at where I'm at. And I've done what I've been able to do with them. So, yeah, I appreciate you and I love you. So I don't say it much. Go fuck yourself. But every once in a while, I'll say I love you. And I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. And this is literally my biggest fan. Is there anything you want to say?
Oh, thank you for taking care of my little friend here.
Thanks. I mean,
Little
I
dad.
try my best, you know. Like I said, he was my brother, and I told my mom, "Can I be his dad?" Like, which was funny as fuck. But I just wanted to make sure he didn't go through anything I went through. And it goes same thing with all the kids. He helps out, and anytime around my kids and the little cousins that he has, I'm always playing with them, you know. So I'm always trying to teach somebody because, you know, we're all not going to be here for a long time. So might as well pass on some knowledge to somebody, you know.
Or an
'Cause,
ass
I mean,
kicking. No.
We're not all born with like a manual of what we should be doing, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're doing it, Lando, and
my-
I'm happy and proud of you because you're pursuing. You're teaching your kids better. You know, your kids are fucking super positive, and I'm like, damn, what was that when we needed?
Well,
You know, we needed it.
my favorite thing is that you got to do what you wanted to do, and I got to do whatever I wanted to do. And I suggest everybody go out there and be positive and do anything they want to do, and never be scared to try. And not gonna lie, it's not gonna happen in 1 day, 2 days, a year. Sometimes it takes a lifetime.
Yeah.
So
Oh, shit, I think it was a KFC guy. Didn't make KFC until he was like 60, 70 years old.
62 or something.
Yeah,
Colonel
so-
Sanders.
Dude, but Lando, I appreciate you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Vegas. Justin, thank you so much. I know
yeah,
obviously
thank you, Justin.
it was more of a personal thing, you know, but I'm glad I was able to talk to you and be
Yeah, I
part
was
of
glad
it.
you guys were able to share.
And yeah, we love you, Mom. We'll see you soon. I want to mention Lalas, please.
We love you, Mama.
And shit, that was another episode of the Shorty Show. Take care. Mission DTek, Justin Hong, Shorty Torres. Appreciate you guys.
See you guys.